Welcome back to Superbly Said, Advanced English Vocabulary and Phrases.
Absolutely.
Have you ever, completely frozen in a meeting? Just, because the boss asked for numbers you absolutely didn't have.
Oh, yeah. The worst feeling.
Or maybe you've sat in an exam room and you're desperately searching for a word that it just wouldn't come.
Right.
Well, today, we are exploring the exact vocabulary that native speakers use to basically navigate, survive, and even dominate those kinds of high-pressure moments. And we are pulling our material directly from a SpeakDuo lesson.
Yeah. Specifically, SpeakDuo 1671, for those following along.
Exactly.
And just to add to that, if you want to actually put these skills into practice, not just listen, you can head over to SpeakDuo.com.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's this really fantastic place to meet new people from all around the world who are practicing English on video calls. Because, building that confidence in real time is crucial, right?
Definitely. It's all about practice. And for this exploration today, we are jumping straight into idioms. And this is specifically tailored for advanced English learners.
Right, so we are looking at basic definitions today, no how are you stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We are looking at phrases that bridge that gap between, textbook English and natural high-stakes fluency.
The real stuff.
The real stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to start right in the heat of the moment, because we've all been in situations where the pressure is suddenly just boom on.
Oh, absolutely.
The first phrase from the material is put on the spot. Now, I hear this a lot, but I'm curious, is it just a fancy way of saying you were surprised?
Not quite. It's nuanced, right? If you were just surprised, you would normally say you were, caught off guard.
Okay, caught off guard.
Yeah, but put on the spot brings in this very specific psychological element. It's about public social pressure. So it means forcing someone into a difficult situation, but usually with an audience.
Right, so it's the difference between, a sudden pop quiz at your desk alone versus the teacher calling you to the front of the classroom.
Exactly, yes. Imagine you're speaking to your boss and saying, during the meeting, the manager put me on the spot by asking for numbers I didn't have ready.
Ooh, yeah, you can feel that.
You're painting a vivid picture, right,
Yep.
of all eyes turning to you in the boardroom. And if you're giving an IELTS Part 2 response, describing a stressful situation, saying something like, last month a client put me on the spot when they asked for an unfinished report, that tells the examiner you deeply understand social dynamics in English, not just the vocabulary.
That makes total sense. You're showing off your cultural fluency, basically.
Right, exactly.
Now, once you're on the spot, you obviously have to react, and sometimes you have to, fight back.
Which leads us to the next phrase, go toe-to-toe with.
Oh, this is a great one. It's a highly descriptive phrase meaning to directly confront or compete with an equal opponent. Equal opponent. Because, see, I usually just say I went head-to-head with someone. Is toe-to-toe any different?
It is, yeah. It carries a slightly more combative connotation.
Okay, combative.
Yeah, think of a boxing ring.
Yeah.
Two fighters standing so close that their toes are literally almost touching.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a strong image.
Right. It implies matching someone blow for blow in an argument or like a display of skill.
Yeah.
It is this really intense engagement where neither side is backing down.
So in a workplace context, you wouldn't just say, two teams competed. That's a bit boring.
Way too boring.
You'd say she went toe-to-toe with the rival team during the final round and stayed calm under pressure. It makes the speaker sound so much more assertive.
Absolutely.
And for an IELTS exam, about overcoming a challenge, you could casually drop, I went toe-to-toe with a colleague in a presentation contest last year. It turns a regular story into a really compelling narrative.
It really does. It's all about storytelling in English. But of course, when you're going toe-to-toe in those heavy debates, the challenge itself can feel, insurmountable.
Oh, for sure.
Which brings us to our next phrase, which is nigh on impossible.
Yeah.
Meaning, basically, almost completely impossible to do.
Nigh on. That sounds, almost theatrical.
A little bit, yeah.
If I were writing a technical report, I'd probably just use virtually impossible. Why would I choose nigh on?
Well, because you want to add emotional weight.
Okay, emotional weight.
Yeah, virtually impossible is very standard. It's analytical. But nigh on impossible is deeply native idiomatic. You are expressing how profoundly difficult the situation felt to you on a personal level.
Oh, I see. So in an IELTS Part 2 response saying, fixing the old system alone felt nigh on impossible, but step by step we made it workable, that really captures attention.
Exactly. It draws the listener in.
Oh, wait, let me push back on this a bit. When we use phrases like nigh on impossible or say we went toe-to-toe, aren't we, slightly exaggerating? I mean, we're not actually in a boxing ring.
We absolutely are exaggerating.
Okay, so that's normal.
Totally normal. Native speakers exaggerate all the time to make their anecdotes more colorful. It's part of the culture. Using these phrases signals that you aren't just communicating raw data, you are sharing a human experience.
Okay, I love that. So we've survived the initial pressure cooker, but how do professionals actually solve these, nigh on impossible problems?
Well, let's move into focus and problem solving.
Right. So the next phrase in our source material is to drill down on. Now, I assume this just means to look into something.
It's actually much deeper than that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, look into is very broad and casual, like you might look into a customer complaint. But to drill down on means examining something in extreme granular detail.
Granular detail, right.
It implies moving from a high-level summary all the way down to the specific hidden metrics.
Okay, so if you're talking to a colleague about, say, data analysis, you'd say, we need to drill down on the customer feedback to find the main issues. It shows you are willing to do the tedious, detailed work.
Exactly. You're getting your hands dirty with the data.
But doing that kind of intense analytical work requires serious focus. And the material pairs this with the phrase, sequester oneself.
Yes, which means isolating oneself for focus, for work, or even just peace.
But why not just say isolate? That's a perfectly good word.
It is, but isolating oneself can sound lonely, or like you were forced into it.
Ah, like a punishment.
Right. Sequestering, on the other hand, is an intentional strategic choice for productivity. You are taking control of your environment.
That's a great distinction.
So for an IELTS response about studying for a major exam, saying she sequestered herself in a quiet room to finish the report, that frames the isolation as a powerful choice.
I keep picturing a submarine.
And a submarine.
Yeah, like you're a professional facing a massive problem, right? So you dive deep beneath the surface, you drill down on the data, you sequester yourself by cutting off communications, and you just get to work.
I like that.
But when that submarine finally surfaces, the engines have to be completely dead.
That is a brilliant analogy, actually. And that feeling of the engines being dead, that is our next phrase. Tapped out.
Tapped out.
Yeah, it means completely exhausted or just totally out of resources.
Now, I usually hear people say they are burnt out. Is it the same thing?
Be careful with burnt out, because that describes a chronic, long-term, almost existential career crisis.
Right, like you need a 6-month vacation.
Exactly. But tapped out is acute. It means your battery is at 0% just for today.
Oh, okay.
You might tell a colleague, after the long event, I was tapped out and needed to rest for the rest of the day. You'll be fine tomorrow, but right now, the tank is empty.
Got it. So we have the submarine workers doing the deep dive, but let's zoom out and look at the people steering the ship. Transitioning over to leadership, the material highlights the phrase, lead from the front, meaning, guiding others by setting a personal example.
Right. And you'll often hear people say lead by example, which is great. But lead from the front has a more active, almost military tone to it.
Like a general leading the charge.
Exactly. It means you are physically out there taking on the hardest tasks first before asking your team to do them.
Like saying, our coach leads from the front by doing the hardest drills with the team.
Yes, perfectly said.
So if you get an IELTS question asking about a leader you admire, saying, I tried to lead from the front by taking on tough tasks early, is just incredibly vivid.
Very vivid. It shows real action.
But wait, if you're out there on the front lines doing all the granular work, couldn't you completely lose the big picture?
You absolutely could. Which brings us perfectly to our next phrase. Lose sight of.
Lose sight of.
Yeah, this means forgetting or neglecting a main objective due to distraction.
How does that differ from just getting distracted, though? Like, if my phone buzzes, I'm distracted.
Well, getting distracted is momentary.
Right.
But losing sight of refers specifically to forgetting the long-term goal.
Oh.
Because you got so bogged down in small details.
Ah, I see.
So in a strategy meeting, you'd caution your colleagues by saying something like, don't lose sight of the main objective while you handle small tasks.
So a bad leader might lead from the front, but get so lost in the weeds that they lose sight of why the company even exists in the first place.
Exactly, yes.
And I'd imagine that kind of leader probably commits our next vocabulary sin.
Right.
They take for granted their team.
Definitely. Taking something for granted means failing to properly appreciate something or someone. And it is distinctly different from simply underappreciating something.
What's the nuance there? I feel like those get mixed up a lot.
They do. To underappreciate just means you don't value something enough.
Hmm.
But to take something for granted implies it is such a constant, reliable presence in your life that you have literally forgotten it is a privilege to have it at all.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we do that with modern conveniences all the time, don't we?
All the time.
Like, we often take for granted simple things like clean water and steady internet. So, for an IELTS Part 2 response about, say, a life lesson, reflecting on that and saying, I used to take for granted easy travel, but now I appreciate short trips much more, that just shows immense maturity in your vocabulary.
It really does. It's a great phrase. Now, let's step away from the professional environment for a second, because native-sounding phrasing is just as crucial in casual, everyday social dynamics.
Absolutely.
Let's look at the phrase tag along.
Tag along, meaning to accompany someone on a trip or activity. But honestly, why wouldn't I just ask, can I come with?
Come with is perfectly fine, but tag along specifically implies a power dynamic.
A power dynamic. How
Yeah.
so?
It means you aren't the main organizer. You are joining an existing plan casually, without any expectation of changing the agenda.
Oh, I like that. It takes the pressure off the host.
Exactly.
You might say to a coworker, hey, I asked if I could tag along to the gallery since I love the new exhibit. It's very low stakes. Speaking of low stakes, what about the phrase rock up?
I love this one. To rock up means arriving somewhere casually and often late without making a fuss.
So it's basically just a slang term for show up.
It's more than that, though. It's almost a social tool. When someone rocks up, it implies this relaxed, unapologetic, or even slightly oblivious attitude to being late.
Like they don't even realize it's a big deal.
Right. It deflects blame. You aren't apologizing profusely. You're just casually entering the space.
Like describing a flaky friend. He just rocked up to the meeting 10 minutes late and joined the discussion without fuss. Now, if an IELTS student uses rock up instead of arrive late, does that catch an examiner's ear?
Instantly. It signals casual confidence. It shows you really understand the rhythm and slang of colloquial English, rather than just, reciting a textbook.
Yeah, you sound like a real person. But casual settings aren't always relaxed. Sometimes emotions run hot, and the material includes the phrase green with envy, being extremely jealous of someone's success.
Right.
But why use a color? Like, why not just say jealous?
Because jealous is an abstract, invisible emotion. Green with envy paints a vivid physical picture of resentment. It's descriptive storytelling that really makes the listener feel the intensity.
That makes sense. Imagine confiding in a work friend. She was green with envy when her friend bought a new house nearby. Or like, I was green with envy when a friend got a promotion, but it pushed me to learn new skills. It's incredibly evocative.
It truly is. It's so visual. So finishing up our vocabulary analysis, let's look at phrases describing profound internal feelings, starting with skip a beat.
Oh, like when something is so beautiful it takes your breath away?
Not exactly, actually.
Yeah.
No, take my breath away is usually reserved for awe or wonder. But having your heart skip a beat is about a sudden, sharp spike of adrenaline. It could be shock, a sudden thrill, or even a wave of anxiety.
Oh, I see. So describing a nerve-wracking moment to a boss. My heart skipped a beat when I saw the surprise guest arrive. Or positive thrill, right?
Yeah.
When I saw the acceptance email for a job I wanted, my heart skipped a beat.
Exactly. It's that momentary jolt.
Right. So what about cognitive frustration? Like when you know a word, but you just can't find it in your brain.
Yeah, that is having something on the tip of my tongue.
Is that the same as saying it slipped my mind?
No, and the difference here is really crucial.
Okay.
If something slipped your mind, you completely forgot it. You weren't actively thinking about it at all.
It's just gone.
Yeah. But if it is on the tip of my tongue, you are actively struggling to retrieve it in this exact moment.
Oh, it's the ultimate mid-conversation stumble. The actor's name was on the tip of my tongue during the whole conversation.
Exactly. We've all been there.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Finally, we have history in the making, meaning a highly significant event likely to be remembered.
Right. And notice how this contrasts with calling something a historic event.
What's the difference?
A historic event looks backward at the past, but history in the making captures the visceral feeling of being present while the future is actively being written. It is active.
Oh, I love that. Like giving an end-of-year corporate speech and saying, the ceremony felt like history in the making for the whole town. I mean, it gives you goosebumps just saying it.
It really elevates your speech.
Well, all right, we've explored the nuances, but now it's time to see how much of this is actually stuck. It's time for the Advanced English Quiz.
Awesome. So, the rules are simple. We are going to read a question and 3 potential options. Option A, option B, and option C. You just need to listen closely for the contextual nuance we just spent time breaking down.
Exactly. And I am going to repeat the phrases to make sure they really lock into your memory. After I read the options for the phrase, I will give you a cue to pause if you need a moment. Ready? Let's start with the phrase, put on the spot.
We'll do it.
Question 1. Which sentence uses the idiomatic phrase, put on the spot correctly based on context? We are looking for the correct use of put on the spot.
The professional photographer was instructed to put the subjects on the spot for the final portrait series.
The deeply frustrated young retail clerk aggressively managed to completely drop a white line.
The CEO put me on the spot by asking me to justify our department's budget in front of the entire board without any prior warning. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer. The answer is option C. The CEO put me on the spot.
Yes. Remember, put on the spot is about that sudden public pressure where all eyes turn to you, just like the manager asking for numbers you didn't have ready.
Spot on.
Let's test the combative phrases next.
Question 2. Select the context where the phrase go toe-to-toe with is most appropriately used figuratively. We want the best figurative use of go toe-to-toe with.
After years of training, she was finally prepared to go toe-to-toe with the incumbent champion in the high-stakes industry innovation debate.
The professional footwear design specialist was instructed to go toe-to-toe with the new sneaker model during the ergonomic study.
The incredibly clumsy warehouse inventory clerk accidentally managed to quickly buy some large systems. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer. The answer is option A. She was prepared to go toe-to-toe with the incumbent champion.
Exactly. This calls back to our discussion about competing blow for blow with an equal opponent in a debate, not literal toes.
Definitely not literal toes.
Okay.
Okay, let's see if they remember how to handle data. Question 3. In which situation does someone accurately utilize the advanced phrase, drill down on, contextually? We are looking for the phrase, drill down on.
The professional industrial manufacturing specialist was instructed to drill down on the steel plate for the structural reinforcement.
Instead of just reviewing the high-level summary, we need to drill down on the individual regional reports to understand why our sales have stagnated.
The completely terrified young wilderness traveler unexpectedly noticed an exceptionally massive, heavy tool chest. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer. The answer is option B. We need to drill down on the individual regional reports.
Right, just like the submarine going deep, you know?
Yeah.
You are drilling down on the sales data to find the specific granular metrics.
Moving on to momentous events. Question 4. Which response best demonstrates the advanced phrase, history in the making, figuratively? Think about history in the making.
Watching the two longtime rival nations sign a comprehensive peace treaty felt like witnessing history in the making for all of us present.
The professional historical documentation archivist was instructed to record history in the making in the dusty back room of the museum.
The incredibly clumsy warehouse inventory clerk accidentally managed to quickly catch that white balance. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer. The answer is option A, witnessing history in the making with the peace treaty.
Spot on. It perfectly matches the feeling of experiencing a highly significant event while the future is actively being written.
We are halfway there. Let's look at leadership mistakes. Question 5. How would a professional accurately use the phrase lose sight of contextually? Find the correct use of lose sight of.
The professional long-range telescope operator was instructed to lose sight of the target during the atmospheric interference.
The completely confused amateur theater group unexpectedly decided to proudly paint a clean frame.
We must ensure that while we optimize for short-term profit, we do not lose sight of our core mission to provide sustainable long-term value. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer. The answer is option C. We do not lose sight of our core mission.
Right, because this ties directly back to getting so distracted by the small, short-term tasks that you completely forget the big picture.
Let's test that highly visual emotional phrase next. Question 6. Which scenario perfectly illustrates the meaning of the phrase, green with envy, contextually? Look for green with envy.
The professional organic pigment manufacturing technician was instructed to make the batch green with envy for the artistic paint set.
I was absolutely green with envy when my rival received the promotion I had been working toward for 3 consecutive years.
The incredibly clumsy hotel maintenance worker accidentally managed to completely drop that red tray. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer. The answer is option B. I was absolutely green with envy.
Yes. Remember, it's that intense, almost physical picture of resentment over someone else's success, like we mentioned with the promotion.
Just 2 left. Think about adrenaline. Question 7. Which sentence accurately utilizes the advanced phrase skip a beat contextually? We're looking for skip a beat.
My heart skipped a beat when I unexpectedly received the notification that our project had been accepted for the International Design Award.
The professional drum set instruction specialist was instructed to skip a beat on the snare drum during the tempo demonstration.
The deeply confused young kitchen assistant accidentally managed to quickly slice a fresh piece of beat. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer. The answer is option A. My heart skipped a beat.
Exactly. This mirrors the sudden adrenaline thrill we talked about earlier, like opening a job acceptance email.
And for the final question, let's see how well you handle casual arrivals. Question 8. Which of the following statements correctly uses rock up, figuratively or casually? The phrase is rock up.
The geologist was instructed to rock up the sediment samples for the university presentation.
He just rocked up to the meeting 10 minutes late and joined the discussion without any fuss.
The small fishing boat began to rock up and down violently in the rough afternoon waves. Feel free to pause the podcast here if you need to think about the answer. The answer is option B. He just rocked up to the meeting 10 minutes late.
Yes. It's the perfect social tool for arriving casually late while just completely deflecting the blame.
Phew. Well, if you work through all of those, honestly, well done.
Yeah, great job. And to leave you with a final thought today, mastering advanced vocabulary isn't just about, memorizing a list to pass a test. It is fundamentally about closing the gap between the complex, nuanced thoughts in your head and the words that actually leave your mouth. It gives you the power to control the social dynamics of a room. So, which of these phrases will you challenge yourself to use tomorrow?
That's a great question. It is all about navigating those muddy waters of communication and expressing your exact intent with clarity. Thanks for diving into these sources with us today. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and we will catch you next time.